So, you know the Supreme Court, right? They can literally overturn laws passed by Congress and signed by the president. I mean, that's a massive amount of power. But have you ever stopped to wonder where that authority actually comes from? Let's uncover the pretty surprising origin story of the court's greatest superpower.
It really all boils down to this one fundamental question about the Constitution. This document is supposed to be the rule book, right? It's supposed to limit the government's power. But who's the referee? Who gets to look at a play and say, nope, that's out of bounds? Who gets the final say?
Well, today, we all know the answer is the Supreme Court. You can think of it as the ultimate umpire in the game of American government. When the other branches do something, the court gets to decide if they're actually playing by the rules. But here's the crazy part. This incredible power, it's not actually written down anywhere in the Constitution. Nope. It was a power the court basically claimed for itself during a massive political crisis. And the story of how the court got this power isn't some dry, boring legal proceeding. Not at all. It's a high-stakes political thriller that went down right at the very beginning of the nation, and it was born from one of the nastiest elections in American history. Okay, so check out this timeline. It all kicks off with the election of 1800. The president, John Adams, a Federalist, loses to his biggest rival, Thomas Jefferson. So in the final days before he has to leave office, Adams and his party are scrambling. They rush to create a bunch of new judge positions and fill them with their own guys. These became famous as the Midnight Judges. The clock is ticking down, their official papers, their commissions are signed and sealed, but in all the chaos, a few of them just don't get delivered in time. So when Thomas Jefferson walks into office, he is furious. He sees this as a dirty political trick to let the Federalists keep control of the courts. So what does he do? He tells his new Secretary of State, a guy named James Madison, do not deliver those last commissions. Just don't. Well, one of the guys who was supposed to get a commission, William Marbury, decides he's not taking this lying down. He sues, and he takes his case straight to the top, to the Supreme Court. Now, here's where it gets really juicy. The man in charge of the Supreme Court is the new Chief Justice, John Marshall. And get this, Marshall was the very same guy who was Adams's Secretary of State, the one who was supposed to deliver the commissions in the first place. So now he's in this impossible spot. A real rock and a hard place. If he orders Madison to deliver the commission, he knows Jefferson will just ignore him, which would make the court look totally powerless. But if he sides with Jefferson and rules against Marbury, he makes the court look like a political puppet. It was a total lose-lose situation.
But John Marshall was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. He spotted a brilliant third option, a move that wouldn't just solve this one problem, but would go on to define the Supreme Court's power forever. He was about to unleash the power of judicial review.
Marshall's ruling was just a masterpiece. Here's how he did it. In step one, he said, you know what? Marbury is right. He legally deserves his job, and Madison is breaking the law by not giving it to him. That's a point for the Federalists. But then, and this is the genius move, he pivots in step two. He asks, okay, but can we, the Supreme Court, actually force Madison to do it? Which leads him to step three. He looks at the law Marbury was using to sue, and in a shocking twist, he declares that part of that law, a law passed by Congress, was actually unconstitutional.
And that, right there, is the superpower he just claimed for the court, judicial review. It's the power to look at a law from Congress, look at an action from the president, and say, nope, this violates the Constitution, so it's void. It was an absolutely brilliant political move. He gave Jefferson the short-term win, Marbury didn't get his job, but he did it in a way that grabbed this incredible permanent power for the court. And Marshall summed it all up in this iconic quote from his decision. This one sentence is basically the foundation of the court's modern power. He's essentially saying, look, if the Constitution is the ultimate rulebook, then it is absolutely our job, the judiciary's job, to read that rulebook and say what it means. So this wasn't just some clever trick back in 1803. Oh no. The power of judicial review has been at the very center of American history ever since, shaping some of the biggest debates we've ever had. Let's take a look at a couple of huge examples. Let's start with maybe one of the most important ways judicial review has been used, the fight against legal segregation. This is where the court's power was used to completely reshape American society.
For more than 50 years, the idea of separate but equal was the law of the land. A previous Supreme Court had even approved it. But in 1954, in the landmark case Brown v. Board of Education, the court used its power of judicial review to take a fresh look. It reviewed all these state segregation laws and decided they were in direct violation of the Constitution's promise of equal protection. The court struck those laws down, famously declaring that separate educational facilities are inherently unequal.
But judicial review isn't just for these massive, society-altering decisions. It's also a vital tool for protecting the rights of everyday individuals, even students inside a public school. Take this case from 1969, Tinker v. Des Moines. A few students wore black armbands to school to protest the Vietnam War. The school suspended them, so they sued. The Supreme Court reviewed the school's rule and found that it went too far. It violated the students' First Amendment rights. The court made that famous declaration that students don't shed their constitutional rights at the schoolhouse gate, and it struck down the school's ban, setting a huge precedent for student rights.
So you can see how that single clever decision way back in 1803 created this legacy that is still playing out today. It started a conversation about the Constitution and the court's role that we are absolutely still having. So here's the bottom line. Marbury v. Madison was never really about William Marbury's job. It was about power. John Marshall's incredible ruling took the Supreme Court from being what some people called the least dangerous branch and turned it into a truly co-equal, powerful player in American government. And that leaves us with a huge, thorny question that people still argue about all the time. In a democracy, should a small group of 9 unelected judges really have the final power to strike down laws passed by the people we actually vote for? It's the essential debate over the court's role in our society, and the legacy of Marbury v. Madison ensures that question isn't going away anytime soon. Thanks for digging into this with me.